To Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know, I'm happy that you're joining us today. Now, as you listen to the show, wherever you are on your journey of business, sales, career, doesn't matter, you fill in the blank. I truly hope that my guests and I inspire you to take action and create change. To help you on your journey of changing your sales game, in the show notes, you'll find my communication style assessment, my gift to you. 2 reports will come after you take the little quiz. 1, spotlight your natural communication superpowers. It's basically how your message lands when you communicate without any modification. Important to know. Secondary report, this one is, I feel, a little more important, is your lowest score, which is traditionally or typically a blind spot in how we communicate. So to me, understanding that, so when you communicate with those that communicate 180 degrees different than you, how's your message landing? Kind of want to know that so that we can pivot and really modify our style to leverage the communication that I'm trying to have with the client, boss, whoever it is in your world. So my gift to you in the show notes. Now, my quote today is by Johann Wolfgang, and Johann says, "Knowledge is not enough. We must apply. Wishing is not enough. We must do." Now, I just love that quote. Have you met me? I'm all about taking the action. So everything when I started my business was analog. So yeah, there was no internet, social media. We didn't even know what that meant, right? So how much has changed over, the past time that have my career, but also being in business for 24 years. Now, looking back, the learning curve for me using that social media, email campaigns, other digital resources out there, it was like a foreign freaking language. So since this is not my zone of genius, I stay in my lane with what I know, sales. So like many of you, I had to find experts to help me grow with this digital presence thing that everybody was talking about. Now, I love learning and using the various ways to get exposure so that I can help more people, serve bigger, all of those things. So tell me, when I started doing the social media, I felt like it was magic on people reaching out to me and getting to know me super quickly. Pretty cool stuff. So who is my guest today? Well, she is the amazing Jenna Warriner. Now, Jenna is a marketing coach, social media management agency owner, and the Shiny New Clients podcast host. Through her program, Magic Marketing Machine, she simplifies Instagram marketing. She teaches small business owners and freelancers how to create gorgeous and sustainable online presence and turn their followers into clients. Sign me up every time, man. Help me welcome Jenna. Thanks for being on, kiddo.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's funny, you're talking about how different everything is now that social media exists, but like social media is so different than it was 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
A lot of
When
people tell me it changes so quickly.
Well, especially with the AI coming out now, like Pandora's box has been opened, Jenna. So all of a sudden, the AI is taking on almost a life of its own. My kids tease at dinner every night. They go, "Ma, we're in the Matrix." We're not in the Matrix, you conspiracy theorists over there. But it changes rapidly. And if you remember, I remember watching a news episode. It was like 1983 or something. And the 2 broadcasts were saying, yeah, internet, not sure what it is. It's hysterical. You Google it. You can Google and watch it. It's hysterical because their haircuts and their suits are dated, but they're talking about the internet like you think it's around to stay. It's just, we don't know what we don't know. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, every 2 weeks, the change is exponential. So we need experts like you because, and this is the truth, Jen, and I know business owners and even my corporate clients that I work with, we know what we know. We don't have time with the social media stuff. So we do need experts like you to even give us guidance. So you have a ton of resources, which we're going to talk about throughout the show and give at the end. But my first question is, how the heck did you, because you're young, right? How did you get into this?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. It was an accident. Um, well, basically, I was an actor and a bartender, and I went to school for musical theater. And I think I just had an inherent ability to understand entertainment industry and like PR and how we come across. And that segued into marketing marketing really well. So I understand marketing on a deep level, which is one of the things that makes me a little different than most social media people, because as much as everything changes, the buttons change, the trends change, how
Mm.
you film a piece of content changes, but the marketing stays the same. Right?
Mm.
The marketing psychology, that stuff stays the same. And that's why someone like you with your knowledge could slide into Instagram and just slay, you know? Oh my gosh, I can hear my my young terminology already. But
Hey,
anyway,
I'm pretty hip there, kiddo.
no, I know.
Teasing you.
So when you're an actor, everyone always says, make your own work, make your own work. Like that's the only way you can kind of control your career, because
Yeah.
your career is at the whim of casting and other people creating movies and casting
Yeah.
you, whatever, right? So I wrote a show with a friend and we went to tour it across the country, but it's not as glamorous as it sounds. Like I was paying for the whole thing with bartending money. We were doing these shows, not a lot of people were coming. I'd be in a house with like 100 seats and there's 16 people sitting there. Like it wasn't super successful.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I actually flew home between two cities to bartend for a weekend to make enough money to pay for a hostel to sleep in the next city, you know? So then when I got back to Toronto, which is where I was from, two people inside 1 week both said, congratulations on your success. And I was like, what? Kel success. What success are we talking about here? So it led me kind of into an existential crisis because I was like, how come everybody thinks I did so good when I was like struggling? And so I realized what it was after, I thought about it. I got myself a lot of press on the road and a lot of social media content. I got myself on the cover of the art section of the Edmonton Journal, which is pretty big up here in
Pretty
Canada.
cool.
Great
Yeah.
North.
Yeah.
Some breakfast television, like lots of guest spots on other shows and cabarets. Like I was busy, but that wasn't turning into ticket sales because no one knew me in those places. So that's sort of their first touch point with me, didn't convert into a ticket sale. But then when I got back to where I lived, where everyone knew me and all they had seen was that perception online, they thought that I'd been a success. So I got fascinated by that. And although I never saw myself leaving acting, I thought that would have been my path since I was 9 years old. But I was fascinated by this. And I was like, maybe I should be a publicist. And I started investigating that. And then I learned about digital marketing. And then I started getting into that. And I was still resisting it, but I was volunteering at a yoga studio. And the owner forced me to take over the social media. I said no 100 times. And he just kept, I had like shown him how Instagram worked once, just like showing him the buttons before I had like really learned everything that I was learning at the time. He forced me to take it over. I charged him $300 a month to run his entire presence, like do like branding, 2 different platforms. And then I started having the time of my life, Connie. Like I was loving it.
I
So
love
I
it.
was like, borrowing lighting equipment from people, getting on the bus, traveling across the city with all of these lights, and then telling influencers to meet me at the yoga studio and doing photo shoots for them in exchange for like shout outs on their accounts.
I love
Um,
it.
I'm like running contests on Instagram. I've got like a sign on the front desk, like follow us for 10% off or whatever. Like I was just loving it. And then I went to the bar that I worked at and I said, hey, can I run yours too for another $300 a month? If you're following, I'm still living in a cockroachy one room apartment.
We all started somewhere.
Right. And I've got like a hand-me-down computer. And I'm just, and then I blew that social media up and I started being just really good at it. And then it went from there. It went and went and went. And that was 7 years ago.
So, what's fascinating? Couple of things. So it's funny how what we should be doing, because this is what you should be doing, find you. Sales was the same thing. I had no intention of getting into sales. And then all of a sudden, you're doing something and everybody was like, you're going to get into sales, right? And I was like, I don't know anything about sales. And they're like, what do you think you've been teaching us? So it was just so right. The same thing. And I was like, I don't know, maybe there's something here. It's kind of fun, right? So you pursue it, you go down that road. So isn't it interesting? Your purpose does find you. And I think people who feel stagnated are listening to the show right now. That was such a great story. And then here's the part 2 to that. It's funny how you did the acting and that was your education from 9 years old. Oh, yes, I'm going to be on this big screen and all that glamorous. Then you get on the road and you're like, okay, this really kind of sucks. And yet the perception becomes our reality with our clients as well. So the perception when you got home was, oh my gosh, she's this huge overnight success. Meanwhile, you felt like you were an utter failure. Not the case. So there is no such thing as an overnight success, by the way, everybody, right? It takes time for you to get the legs and the momentum. And that's what you did. And then you just kept doubling down, gaining the experience, right? The tactical experience to be able to do. But at the core, your purpose and zone of genius is your creativity. And that's why you fell into this, right? You kind of found it or it found you, but you became really good fast because it's really your purpose, right? It's that creative juice, just that you can make it relevant to what's happening currently for businesses, et cetera. And you're making money off it. That's how small businesses win. So I just love it. I love that story. It's just cool stuff. And then, the guy bugging you and you're like, will you leave me alone? And then you finally buckle and then bam, a new business is
Well,
made. So I just love it.
You almost wonder if some voice was saying to him, no, get Jenna to do your socials.
Right.
Like, I don't know how like tapped in this guy was, but I'm really glad that he really forced me, like truly forced me.
Yeah, he was aggressive. Thank goodness.
Just this weekend, one of my friends who's still, struggling in this actor world, because it is a hard world to exist in, said, so you don't miss it at all? Like, you don't miss it? I'm like, dude, 2 weeks ago, I was in Long Beach, California, in a room with 400 people there to listen to me teach them about social media, and a technician clipping a lav mic onto my lapel and filming the whole thing. And I got to make them laugh and actually have an impact on their lives. It's the same thing. Like, I didn't actually leave. The parts I liked about it, I took with me.
Yep. It's just a different path. It's right. The same thing. Just fascinating. I love to hear how businesses come to be, right? Because I know it found me just like it found you. So that's just really cool. All right. Next question. Social media, in my mind, years ago, and not anymore, right? Because I've educated myself, but I think a lot of people look at Instagram especially and think that's for the kids. So do you think there's value in being a creator or business owner on social media if you're middle-aged and over, or do you like stand out and it looks weird? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so if you just drove by McDonald's, you'd be like, oh, look, a giant play structure, and they're talking about these Happy Meals, and you're getting toys with your purchase. And it's pretty easy to go, oh, that's for the kids. But we know that the target demographic for that chain is literally all ages, right?
Yes.
And it's gotten to the point where there are billions of people going. And when you have billions of people with an empire that enormous, you're going to have all kinds. And that's the same thing with social media. There are billions of people on that platform. So you have people from all walks of life, every corner of the world, every age, every demographic. It is so big that everyone is there. Like, my target, most of my followers are, the last time I checked my insights, they're like 35 to 45. Like, that's my audience of people who are following me dominantly. It's definitely not for the kids. Not exclusively for the kids.
Right. That's fascinating. So when a lot of us, log into Instagram, typically I think it's used for the kids. Like, my kids are always on Instagram and they, keep me up to speed on what the cousins are doing and stuff like that. How does that change going from that kind of personal touch to that business touch? Is there a big shift?
Yeah. So I want to call attention to how the news feed works, like how your feed of what you're seeing works, because everyone has these different perceptions of what the social media platforms are all about. But we all need to understand that what we see is completely curated to us. So if I opened my husband's phone, I'm going to see golf pros and hockey stats, and feel like, oh, I guess Instagram is about sports. And then if you open my phone, you are only going to see small businesses and social media managers. And if you open my aunt's phone, you're going to see all the cousins and baby pictures. So it's super hyper curated to what you're already interacting with.
Is that dangerous though? Does that make us more narrow-minded because we're not exposed, or that's a good thing, especially for businesses, because we can drill way down into our target market? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, why I wanted to say it, because it is dangerous, because we get into these little bubbles, right? And then we can believe, I mean, on a broader thing politically, that's where we get into trouble, where people think one opinion is the opinion, but it's because the
Yeah.
algorithms are just showing you that one opinion. But people
Ah,
will say things to me like, well, all my friends say that views are down on their reels too. And then we have people that have these beliefs that start formulating in their heads about, oh, I guess engagement is down because I'm in a Facebook group and they said engagement is down. But it's, again, we have billions of users. We have all different industries. We have all different walks of life. That is just the opinion of one pocket. So, I mean, I talk to business owners every day who are frustrated. A lot of people come to me when they're frustrated on Instagram.
yeah.
And then we figure out how to break free from that, which usually just means honing in on who your ideal client is, using various tactics to get their attention through your content. Or sometimes people come to me because they're really empowered. They have all these views and they just want to get more sales off of those views.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people come to me just because they want to be faster and better at all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. Different reasons for different people. But isn't that interesting? And it's funny. This is hysterical, Jenna. It's got to be 10 years now. I just don't watch the news anymore. I'll watch headlines to see if there's a plane crash or something, that I need to know about from current events perspective. But the day to day media, I was getting so angry all the time, and it felt so gross to me. And I remember I was screaming at the TV, seriously. And my husband looked over at me and he goes, I think we, like a kid, I think we need to ban you from TV. I said, I'm unplugging. I am never watching the news again, because I was angry. So I'd go to bed angry every night. It doesn't feel good. So it's dangerous, because when, like, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so whatever that algorithm is, things pop up for me that are of interest. So nothing political ever posts on my Facebook or my LinkedIn page, because I never click on that, because I don't want to know other people's opinion. I'll do my own research and I'll form my own opinion, because everybody's opinion out there is crazy in my, in my
Well,
world.
and so this is, I don't know, haven't seen, the formal statement to say that this is true, but my
Yeah.
understanding as someone who works in social media and what
Yeah.
I have been led to believe is LinkedIn is a little different because they still have humans curating some of the content.
Yeah. That's
Whereas,
probably true.
yeah, if you're over on TikTok or Instagram, it's all robots that are basically curating the content. And so the more people that touch a post, the more people it's shown to. So if you want more people seeing your content, how you can make that happen is figure out ways to get people to touch it. So let's just give everyone a little nugget that they can take and use today.
I
So if
love it.
you post a photo on Instagram, let's say, it doesn't really give me a lot of reason to touch it, right? I might double tap it to like it if I like it. If I have a question about it, maybe I will write a comment and ask a question. But other than that, there's no real reason for me to touch it, which means the algorithm doesn't get that little ping, that little indicator. Hey, let's show this to more people because people are interacting with it. So one of
Ah,
the best ways to get more people seeing your content is just design it to be touched. So instead of posting a photo, maybe we post 3 photos so that the user swipes through them and then they're touching the screen. Maybe the
ah,
first line of the caption is like a hook, like a headline. And that makes people click read more to read the rest of the caption to make it drop down so they can see the rest. Or maybe we say, share this with your best friend. And we give them a really clear call to action on how they can interact with the post. Suddenly, more people are touching the post. The algorithm sees that, the algorithm sends it to more people.
has this changed, like Facebook, right? They were kind of the originals with the liking, the thumbs up and all that to get the impressions, etc. It is Instagram even more refined than that? Follow my question?
Yeah, well, on Facebook, it's a little bit harder typically to get seen by new people, right? Because you have your friends and then you're seeing a list of your friends, but you're
Over and
not
over.
getting served content from strangers. But then once you get into business pages and groups, then it's easier to get and to expand your network into other people. But on Instagram or TikTok, you have the discover page or the for you page, and you can be seeing content that's from other people, which means other people who don't know you yet can be served your content when your content is really successful. So it's a little bit easier to exponentially grow. I would consider Facebook like it's more of a nurturing platform for the people who already know you exist, but the other two platforms and LinkedIn are easier to get discovered on.
Yeah, yeah, agree. My LinkedIn grows. It was so cute. Because I teach business development, sales, all of that, and I was teaching a business development class, and so I use my example of LinkedIn. I'm like, you have to refine your LinkedIn profile. People are checking you out. Clients, you want to ask them to join you on LinkedIn so they could see your posts, see that you're a thought leader, see you're relevant, all those things, right? Prove who you are. And so I had a screenshot of my headshot and everything, and whatever, 6,000 followers or something. Somebody in the room said, "You have 6,000 followers?" I was like, I don't know. That slide's from a couple of months ago, right? And I looked and I go, "Oh, yeah, I guess I do." I don't even pay attention to it. They were so impressed by that. It made me giggle, Jen. I was like, all right, you're easy to please in this classroom.
You're so famous.
That's how they looked. But see, it goes back to what you said before. The perception in Toronto when you got home was that your cruise across the country was this epic success. And you're thinking, like, what did I miss? I was there. And it's perception becomes reality. So this is just another way to shine a light from a different angle, if you will, to spotlight whatever your zone of genius is or whatever business you're in or how you can serve. For me, right? How can I serve the client and make more sales for whoever I'm teaching the sales to? It's so fascinating to me. Because remember, I was that long. So this is so fun because we get to meet people I would never have met you ever if we didn't have Zoom and the internet and the social media. You and I would never have met, right? We're in two different countries at this point. I want to go back. You were mentioning content. So let's dig a little bit with that because people are going, yeah, okay, I understand. Post, picture, headline, get people to click, call to action. All right, I get all of that. How do I create the content? Or what should I be posting so that I get that business flavor? Because we're talking to business owners, right? Or people who are in career looking to make a bigger impact. So how do we do that from a business perspective?
Okay, so I think one of the oldest terms that we can use here is content marketing. So if you wrote a blog, the goal would be to get someone entertained enough to read through that whole blog, which means you're not opening it with the sales pitch, right? Then it's going to be an ad. So it's content marketing. It's creating stuff that people want to watch and want to interact with that inadvertently is building your business and leading to sales. But one of the biggest mistakes people make on these platforms is they go, well, I'm on here to make sales, so I'll just post what is ostensibly ads. Like they just go on and create ads. So we don't want to do that. We want to entertain our followers. So there's 3 types of content that you need to have in order to get clients from your social media. You need growth content, nurture content, and then the sales content. And when I teach, I lean hard into growth and nurture because typically the sales comes like easier to people.
Agree.
And then, we can make that, and then we can obviously make it better and improve it.
Sure.
But that part is the part that people just immediately go to make. And what they're missing usually is growth and nurture. So think of growth as like anything that gets an emotional reaction. So the stuff that you would share to your group chat, right? Like your WhatsApp chat with your friends, you're like, look at this meme, it's so funny. Or look at this thoughtful post, or look at this post that made me go, ah, or wow, like stuff that makes people feel something that they want to share, that makes them think, that they want to interact with, but it's not selling to them. Then we have nurture content. So, and think about your week as in you're posting all 3 of these things every week. So then your nurture content is not necessarily to attract new eyeballs. It's just to really connect with the people who you have, show that you're an expert and validate them and speak to their needs. So that might be a how-to post where you teach something, or might be I say this every day and yet I'm at a loss, but something that's like a little bit more juicy. It speaks to something that is a little bit deeper. It might be a really long caption. Like we don't expect a stranger to read a really long caption, but someone who's warming up to you and considering working with you would. And then we have the sales content. So then when every single week you're posting all of these things, you're attracting new people, warming them up, and then they're perceptive when they see that sales content.
Do you find on Instagram that the sales piece of it, when you get to that, is lower price point items, and then the growth is now I buy whatever your low price point is, but now you're continuing to nurture, prove to me that your stuff works, and then we escalate up into the higher sales?
I don't even think it's that's necessary. Like a lot of the people that I work with don't have really intense funnels. Like they don't have a product suite. They might just have one service. So $1,000 service or $100 service or whatever. And in that case, we don't need to warm them up with like a intro offer or a door crasher or whatever. Usually the people that I work with have one freebie and then their main stuff. And again, it doesn't matter what the price point is. Like if you have a business that sells a high ticket service, you can have that business on Instagram. You don't need to lower your prices or offer a low ticket thing just because you're on that platform, because we've got billions of people here to serve.
Interesting. I guess the idea, right, is building that trust factor. And I think on Instagram, it almost sounds like you can do that pretty darn quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, think of it like we could also think of it like you're at a networking event and you don't just go in and pitch, right? You go in and you tell your party story that always makes people laugh. And then that person you're talking to, like asks you a question about your area of expertise. And then they see your eyes light up and really hone in and you answer it really intelligently. And then that person's really impressed. And then they ask for your business card. So you kind of want your content to be doing all of those things every week, forever and ever. If you don't have growth content, you're going to be nurturing and selling, and then eventually run out of people to sell to because you're not growing.
Absolutely.
If you don't have nurture content, you grow, your sales pitches fall flat. If you don't have sales content, which a lot of people do because they're scared, they're growing and nurturing and growing and nurturing and not making any money. So they all work together.
Yeah. It's funny because I tell people, listen, the marketing and the lead gen piece, funnels and all that, I understand it. And I could tell you this is not right. I could tell you what's wrong with it. I am not the one to go in and correct it. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. And I don't want to even learn because it's not my zone of genius. But once you get that piece in, that's why I like working with marketing people, because they help with that piece of it, right? That lead gen, all the things, growth, nurturing. And then when it gets to the sales, now how do we close, right? And in my world, you should be closing 8 out of 10 clients. The other 2 usually that you're talking to, they think you're the right fit. And ultimately they're not the right fit. So that's that 80% close ratio. But I'm not going to help you with the lead gen because that's just not my zone of genius. So I hand that kind of stuff off because I do believe we have to stay in our lane. And I see all the time, you have marketing people, they go, oh, I'm really good in sales. And then I see them like on a networking event and I think, oh my God, that is like the worst value statement I've ever heard. They just rambled on, but they're brilliant with marketing and copy. They just can't translate it when they're live with the client, right? So know where you're glitching, because then understand what expert you need. I'm not lead gen, I'm making the sale. You're lead gen and you're teeing up for the sale to happen with ease. That's really what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because where the sales happen, like that sales post is still taking them to the next step. Correct. So if the next step is book a sales call, cool. If the next step is get into the DMs, and then we call it social selling, but like closing the lead through chatting in the DMs, there's that. Or if the next step is selling them your freebie because then they're in your email list, then the next step is there. Right. Yeah. So like, I know how to do that. We talk about it. I talk about it a bit, but I really like the analogy of teeing up the sale.
Yeah, and you're making it super easy, because by the time you start having the sales conversation, that person is already looking at you as the expert, thinking, oh, she's got what I need. But now you have to go and shine and show and customize for where that client is. And that's where I find a lot of my clients mess up is I have a product and I'm going to push it on you, instead of saying, whoa, you're not the right person. Right. And this is why, but you really need to meet my friend Jenna. You really have a lead gen problem, right? Or whatever it is. And so we sell to not the right person. And that's where that ick factor comes, because now we're pushing our product instead of it being a good fit. Here's the thing, we have to communicate. So whether it's communicating on Instagram with everything you're saying, and then live with the client or through the DM chats, there has to be a connection with that. So here's the funny thing, Jen, as I'm talking to you, nothing's changed in the 40 years, right? Yet everything's changed. Does that make sense? So the humans are humans. We're not going to change. How we're delivering and gaining and connecting with information is changing, but the human decision-making process and connection with you, whether they want to work with you or work with me, it's human. It's a human piece of the puzzle. And I think we forget that, and we think that automation can do everything. That's crazy. To me, that's a crazy concept. Maybe because I'm old, right? But to me, not super old, but old enough. I just think that the AI is not going to take over the world. I think the human quotient is still super important. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we have touched on a segue into one of my biggest pet peeves at the moment. Is there is so much content online that's like, get ChatGPT to write your content strategy for you. Firstly, just so you know, dear listener, I can tell when ChatGPT wrote your content. Right? Maybe it's just me, but soon it won't be. But I can tell. And it loves the rocket ship emoji. I don't know why, but it just loves that. When you tell it to write social content, it always puts the rocket ship emoji. Anyway, here's the thing. If you ask ChatGPT to write you like your content strategy, it's not giving you something that is sustainable and accessible and realistic. If you had a production studio and an endless budget and a team next door, you could hand that list to them. But I work with small business owners usually in their first 1 to 5 years, or who have been on, like, had a business for a long time, but never touched social media or their own marketing. That's who I work with. So if we have a robot write a list, it doesn't know what your strengths are. It doesn't know what your magic is. It doesn't know what your tech skills are at. It doesn't even know what generation of phone you have, right?
Absolutely.
So we can't expect it to give us something that's realistic. Same with a giant list of caption prompts or like post prompts. I mean, people give these away all the time. I'm sure I've been guilty of it, but you need to do something that's realistic for you. Like, how much time do you have to dedicate to this in a week? And do you have a ring light? Like, let's start there.
Yeah.
Are you
Keep it simple.
comfortable on camera? Let's start there. If yes, move this way. If no, move this way.
It's interesting because everybody, and here's the other thing. I think people make it more complicated than it needs to be. And here's why. And I've just, this is something you learn through the years. If I don't understand it, it's got to be complicated. That's not always the case. It's not complicated. You just haven't been exposed to it. That doesn't mean it's complicated. And that's why, like, when I first did my website, to me, the website, it was a foreign language. But then we started getting into it, and they're like, well, do you have a bio? I'm like, well, yeah. And do you have, yeah. And yeah. So I was like, this isn't so scary. I have all this stuff created already. I just didn't know how to pull it together. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Your zone of genius is your zone of genius. Now, how do we spotlight that so you just rise above the noise? And that's where you come in and help us. Correct? Is that pretty short and sweet?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also only teach the easiest ways to do everything and the fastest ways that I've found to do things.
Yeah. Easy work.
It doesn't need to be complicated. Like, instead of teaching my business owners to edit videos and make them all fancy, I show them how to film it in a way that all you need to do is trim the beginning and the end. Like, that we can do. We don't need edits and splicing and transitions. Like, screw it. If you want to, great. You can grow to that point, but start now. And also, the sooner you start, the faster or sooner you have an audience to sell to. So if you're just starting out and you're like, well, what do I do first? It's growth content. Just try and get in front of your ideal client. Choose who your ideal client is and post stuff that might interest them. That might mean resharing other people's articles. That might mean posting jokes. That might mean posting photos of yourself, whatever. Like, anything that'll get you in front of them so that you have their ear. And then we can start getting more strategic from there. But the worst thing to do is not post because your offer is about to change, because then the day your offer changes, you don't have anyone to sell to yet. When we could be building up those leads now.
That's right. You got to be making money along the way so that you can do more robust things. But if you start simple and get the momentum going, that's when the magic happens. Because if you have the income coming in, now I can allocate money to really do some marketing. But if you have no income, you're just saying, I can't afford it. But
Yeah.
the double-edged sword is you can't afford to not do it, right?
Yeah.
It's like with sales, you can't afford to not get better at sales. Otherwise, you're just going to stay where you are.
Yeah, not even just income. Like I'm even just talking about just content, like just the growth
Yeah.
stuff. Even if
Yeah.
even if you don't have something that can be bringing you income, if you
Yeah.
start now, it's free, right? You've got a
Yeah.
phone, you've got Instagram. It's literally free. So
Yeah.
you can start now attracting that audience, and then ideally, yeah, as you're about to launch that next offer, you're still selling the earlier one, and then you can start to feed in and grow exponentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It again, you use the word strategic. I think business owners, we forget, we hear the new shiny toy and oh, I better do that. Oh, I better do that. I better do that. And we're chasing that. We never focus and come up with a real strategy. What should I focus on right here, right now? And then stack. I call it stacking, just building and building and building. But there's got to be a logical path. Otherwise, you have all this great pieces of information, but they're not connecting and working together. It's like having a broken car. The wheel came off, right? The wheel came off the bus, and we think we're going to keep moving forward because we have these brilliant people on the bus. We're stuck. We can't go anywhere. So I think we have to be strategic in how we utilize everything, as well as budgets and all those things. We're out of time, my friends, everyone. So there's so much more to talk about, but here's the deal. Please join Jenna. Her Instagram is instagram.com/Jenna Spage. Jenna S.
Jenna's
Page.
Page.
Jenna's
Yeah,
Page.
my middle
Yeah,
name is Paige. So it's a
Page.
play on words. That's why there's an I in there.
I love
Jenna.
it. Very cute. But I don't worry, guys, because I can't talk. I will put it in the show notes. Website is Park. I'm going to let you say it.
Yeah, the website is parkdalerepublic.com. That's my agency, and it'll also bring you to my program side of the business. So if you want us to run your socials, we can do it. If you want us to teach you how to do it, we can do that too.
I love it. And the free gift brings you in. She's got a ton of resources to help you out to get a flavor of who Jenna is. Is she the right vibe for you? And then you could go from there. And so the last question, it's kind of off the wall here, but Parkdale Republic, what is that where you live? Like what I'm just interested in the name. It's fascinating because you're Jenna.
Yeah. So I mean, I made it a million years ago, but Parkdale was my neighborhood.
Cool.
And Republic is just like, a community of people. And it was also an acronym for PR. And when I started, I was doing PR. And so that's the business name.
I love it. I had to ask because that's why I was like, wait, I don't think I'm saying this right. It just didn't resonate with me. So that's why I always ask. Because it's interesting. The story behind sometimes can be, and that's the memorable piece. All of a sudden people go, that's freaking cool. Like the Page, right? Paige. You did that play with your name and people are going to remember that. So I love.
I gotta be honest, Connie. If I could go back, I would change both of those to things that are easier to say out loud.
But it's a story, sister. It's a story. It's fun. It's you, right? The drama. It's you, the creator over there. Thank you, my friend, for being on and sharing so much in a short period of time. Everybody go to the website, check out the free gift, join Jenna on Instagram. Again, all of that will be in the show notes. I hope this helps you just generate more sales, certainly. But hopefully it helps us think more strategically on how we could continue to grow our audience so that we can serve bigger, right? If we have this zone of genius, we want to share it with the world. How do we do that? How do we amplify? Jenna's program might be exactly what you're looking for. So thank you again, my friend, for being on. Always like spending time with you.
Thank you.
A true pleasure. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover, no matter where you are on changing your sales game. My guests and I, we've got your back. So here's the deal. And I end the show all the same. And I know you're all tired of hearing it. Too bad. You're going to hear it again. Information is a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, it's just information. Take some of the strategies and the little nuggets that Jenna shared and start to, even if you explore, start by downloading her free gifts and checking out the website. To me, that's a good action to take to start to explore if Instagram, social media, maybe that's the missing piece for your business or your career. So Jenna, thank you again for coming on and sharing your zone of genius with us. And thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I am truly inspired to have you on this journey and me as your guide for changing your sales game. It truly is an honor. And I love seeing you guys every week. And I hope you always find value. And I hope it helps you move the needle to improve your life, whatever that means to you. I love you all. I'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks again.